All right, the old school fish guy again. Yep, my name's Don, and I'm here to talk about how to start a tank, how to cycle a tank when you're first setting up. Now, I haven't shown you yet, but I'm getting close. I keep saying I'm going to show you. I will one of these days, but well, it's got the hiccups. But I'm thinking about what I'm going to do for setup, and the next tank I set up, how am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to show you step by step when I get around to doing it, just for fun. And you've probably seen other people do it. Yeah, my way's probably a little different, just because everyone always says I'm a little different. So what do I know? I'm not going to argue with everyone. So here's how I set up a tank. First off, I want it dry, bare bones dry. I clean it. I do not use any abrasives. I use one powder called Barkeeper's Friend. It is used in bars to clean the countertops. It's non-toxic and it doesn't hurt fish. And I'll use that, and I'll wash the whole inside down and the outside, and I'll clean it all up, and then I'll let it dry out, and then I'll start setting it up. Now, first thing I do, no plants. I figure out where my decorations are going to go, rocks and whatnot, and I start putting them in. Once in a while I silicone them together or down to the tank or something. I do all that first. Then I begin to add my gravel or sand, whatever I'm using. Maybe a mix, I don't know. After I've got all of that down, then I add some water. Now, I don't even put any plants in here. I just sprinkle a few, and there are many approaches. I don't like throwing in garbage fish. I throw in just a few flakes of fish food, just a pinch for a 10-gallon tank, spread it out. In a bigger tank, use a little more. I'm a patient man, so I will set up my tank the long, slow way, and I think it's the best. After a few days, maybe a week, I will start putting in the plants I want and getting them arranged the way I want them. During that week, I will have also set up my filters where I want them, how I want them, and I don't rush that whole first week or so. It takes 2 weeks, fine, it takes 2 weeks. I do not add fish at all during this whole time frame. Until I put the plants on in there, I don't even add lights. I may have them sitting over the tank. I don't even put them on a timer. I like timers. Hello. My name is Don, and I belong to the 12-step program for forgetting to turn on my lights and turn them off on a consistent basis. So I love timers. So I set them up once I get the plants in there. Somewhere in that first week, I'll also put in the heater. I'll leave it set for 24 hours. Now, I know it doesn't take that long, but I'll set it for 24 hours, and then I'll plug it in and turn it on and get the temperature where I want it. All of that stuff. So that's the first week, maybe 2 weeks. And during that time, I test my pH, my nitrites, my ammonia, just for a base. If you have a lot of ammonia, I did another video. You can go watch that and learn about ammonia, how to treat ammonia. Again, nitrates can be a real big problem in some people's water. If you have nitrate problems, again, I've done a video on that. The biggie there is, pre-treat your water before you add it to your tank. With the approaches I used, the more plants you have, the better you deal with nitrates. But some people, the water's just got too many nitrates in it, and that's a problem. Deal with it up front. So during the next 3, 4, 5 weeks, I will add just a few flakes of fish food every 2 to 3 days. And once a week I'll check for ammonia. And the ammonia should stay at almost 0 during all this time unless you start with more. And every few days add some flakes and check for ammonia. When you see a sudden drop in your nitrites, that's when you're starting to need to test for nitrates. And that means you have bacteria that's consuming the ammonia and nitrites. So you want to see that as you add this fish food. And I'm not cleaning the water, the tank, I'm not gravel siphoning during this time. When your nitrates reach above your base reading, that's when your tank is nearing ready to use. You should see ammonia staying near 0. Nitrites will start to climb at some point. You need them to drop and then start coming back. Once your nitrates get above your base reading, that's the time to gravel siphon or change the water or whatever. And just see what happens. If you add gravel or sand or filter material from a mature tank, it can speed up this whole process. I believe in a minimum of 4 weeks, and usually I take 6 or 8 weeks before I declare my tank ready for fish. At that time, I carefully think about what fish I'm going to add. Without giving away my plans for some of my tanks, I do not add my Corridora catfish first, never. If I was going to do a tank with let's say some hatchet fish, some tetras, and some cory cats and some bristlenose, I add the tetras first. I add the low to middle water fish first, and I don't add a lot of them. Maybe 10, in a 30-gallon tank. I like 55-gallon tanks. I might put in 10 or 15. And a week later, I'll add 10 or 15 more, and a week later, 10 or 15, until I get to the number I want. After they've been in there for about a month, then I might add the hatchet fish up on the surface level, or other fish. Let's say I was going to add some golden rams. I'd add them after the tetras. After I get all the other fish in that I want, then I add my cory cats, or whatever cleaner fish you want. And I hate that term, cleaner fish, but that's what people call them. The bottom feeders, Geophagus, Corridoras, Brocas, Aspidoras, and so forth, Scleromystics. Any of the catfish that like to feed off the bottom, loaches. After all of that, maybe 2 to 3 months in, then I add the algae eaters like bristlenose and Otocinclus, 2 of my favorites. And if you're going to add snails, I add them last. Maybe with the algae eaters, the glass cleaners, but not before. So from start to finish, I go 6 weeks on average before I add any fish. And then I go 2 to 4 weeks adding the middle fish, another week or 2 to add the top level fish. Depends on how many you're adding, how big your filter is. Did you have it preloaded? And then I will add the bottom dwellers and glass cleaners last. It might take me 4 months to get a tank to where I consider it ready, set up, done, complete. And that doesn't count if I want to grow out my plants before I get my fish in, which I've been known to do. It might take me 6 months to get a tank to where I want it, just for the initial setup. Yeah, I go slow. You can speed all that up and do it in about 2 months, but you better know what you're doing. Follow the same steps. But do not rush adding the first fish. Watch for the increase in nitrites, and then you should be able to get them to start dropping. And when your nitrates start climbing, that's when you've got to make sure your filters are working right. You clean your gravel, and then you start adding fish about a week later. All right, so that's 4 to 6 weeks minimum. That's the old school fish guy's way to doing it. I know, not very good. The modern American is impatient, want it done now. So we buy nitrifying bacteria in a bottle. We buy nitrifying bacteria in our sand, and we can add the fish in the water and the sand and everything in one day. I saw it on TV. They do these massive fish tanks and they throw it all in one day. Yeah, if you know what you're doing, you got unlimited funds, you can do it that way. Hey, I'm a poor boy. I'm not as smart as they are. So I do it the old-fashioned way, slow and steady. I'm cool with that. Hey, but I'm having fun when I do it. I enjoy watching the tank, and you know, one of the most fun parts about that is I do get impatient. So I make myself wait. It's like self-torture. Hey, whatever you do, let's have some fun, people. Bye.